So we are looking at the payments industry from a slightly different lens than most people out there today, right? If you look around this hall here, you see a lot of great products and fintechs that are kind of entering the market. But we as Celerity Fintech, we're a joint venture between DXC and HCL, have actually been in the payment space for 30 years, as nobody's ever heard of us. We're really, really bad marketers, right? But what we're focused on is the ecosystem transformation within the financial institution. And if you think about everybody who does payments today, the movement of money is not the simplest thing you do, right? And the problem with that statement is that many institutions today have taken their business rules and the things they need to do around the payments and morphed them throughout their whole enterprise, which is not efficient, doesn't really do much around being able to make changes quickly. Their go-to-market timing is terrible. So yes, we do settlement and clearing, and yes, we do e-commerce transactions, and yes, we do card management in the card space, which are all fantastic products we've had in the market for years. But really, I think our future is really the payment transformation within the financial institution, or the institution, right? Because big retailers are out there moving money day in and day out as well. So what we're really looking at is, how do you take what you have today and centralize the business rules, the order management? You know, if I get a transaction, what do we need to do with it? What fraud do I need to look for this? Where do I need to look for my compliance? Centralize that in a tool that can help them when they need a change to happen. They go to one place to make that change, and they can do that, which is great, because once you get all that payment traffic flowing to a centralized location, then you can think about add-on products that really help the enterprise, such as liquidity management, or big data analytics of my payment information, or real-time fraud analytics across my enterprise, or tokenization. I hear banks today saying, I want to get out of the PCI business. Well, it's hard because they got data everywhere all over the bank, but if we can centralize that data point for all those payment transactions, the world opens up to great things that you can do now with all that data. Well, it kind of goes along the same vein we just talked about, right? So you've got PSD2 coming here in the EU, right? Which is changing the way everybody's going to do banking. But let's be honest, it still puts the financial institution on the hook for compliance and protecting that customer, yet now they have to open their doors to let everybody else in. So we look at this as the same kind of philosophy. If you don't have a central control point for that data coming in and out of your enterprise, how do you control anything? So again, I would probably argue up the same kind of philosophy we just talked about. Look at centralization of your payment ecosystem, and then when somebody wants to come in and say, hey, I want to look at a balance on on your DDA system, your ledger system for Douglas, your account, and now you have a central point for that transaction to come through and be transacted, and you can actually affect that transaction from a central location to say, hey, the person's asking for Douglas information, we're not sure if we trust them or not, so we're going to go our full compliance suite. So when the regulators come in, we can say we've protected Douglas as much as we can. Or if it's a PSP that we know really well, we can actually look at this differently and say, oh, we know their fraud and their compliance pieces are really strong, so we just did do a subset just as a second check to make sure Douglas's account's safe and to let that information flow. But it gives the control to the FIs, and regardless of what the PSD2 is pushing us toward, the FI still holds that responsibility, and they still have to maintain some control over that account data, because you, Douglas, you're trusting your bank to do that. I'm trusting my bank to do it, regardless of who's looking for that information. We've probably seen more change in the last 10 years than we've seen in the previous 30, right? So let's take technology first. So we've been dealing with a boring ISO 8583 standard, which is the credit card and debit card standard, for about 40 years now, right? And it's worked well for us, right? It's small, it's compact, it moves data back and forth very well, very fluidly, but it's really unflexible. It can't morph into what we need to go in the future. So we're seeing this new technology called ISO 20022. It's a new data set that really payment rails we're going to run on globally. But there's two great things about it. One, it's infinitely expandable, which can be dangerous too, so we're putting some caps on that. But as our business needs change, those new standards can change with us now, right? Whereas the old standard was very frigid and you couldn't do much. So you can put data fields, or you can put new data fields in. You can put packages within the ISO 20022. Think about the healthcare industry. My wife owns her own business. We get a paper check in the mail every week from the insurance companies, right? I'd rather get that right into my bank account with a statement I can just look at that says, oh, here's what I'm getting paid for, right? Can't do that with the old formats. On the new formats, we can do that very, very easily, right? So that is affecting change. The second good part about that is everybody's looking to adopt that same technology. So think about this. I want to move money to you, Douglas. You live in the EU, I'm sure, England maybe? Somewhere around there? Okay. I want to move money to you today. I want to move $30 to you, right? I can do that today, but it probably costs me $50 and takes 5 days for you to get the money. In the future, it's not going to be a technology hurdle because the US and the EU will have the same data set for moving money. Right? Now we just have to worry about where the fees are, what the FX rates are and stuff like that, but the technology will be across the board. So the globalization of payments is here and it's coming very, very quickly. So that's cool, right? The other big change I've seen is in regulation. And you guys are seeing it much more in the EU than we are in the US, right? In the US, we're still pretty conservative from a regulatory perspective. Nobody's demanding that the banks sell anything, and nobody's demanding that the accounts are open. So I think the EU is actually leading the charge on these on this new regulatory front, which I think is really cool, right? Because first of all, in the US, we get a little bit of time to kind of see what happens and how it progresses. But also, think about how the EU is leading that front. I mean, making technology enablement of data at our core banking systems is really cool, because then you look around the room, now you get these fintechs out there with really cool products but have good business cases they can solve now, and I think that's really going to change the landscape as you move forward. So those are the two big things I see.